I've done some insane challenges on ARK, ranging from 0 times rates to no killing, and now I have 100 days to beat my hardest challenge yet, carrying Granty. Not only does he have a negative KD ratio, but this is a server, meaning the bosses hit like John Cena, and all my tames skipped arm day. We're also gonna fight the bosses on alpha difficulty, so I had to make sure that I picked the correct, voice. And now we were ready to take on Mama Brood, Papa Pithecus, and Doug.
Are you the one I've been waiting for?
No, not really. So anyways, I started a cult.
Or survival descent.
Then I found this random Bob on the beach, so I recruited him. My muscles are bigger. We both started grinding some basic tools, and it wasn't long before I got bullied for playing on a controller.
Wait, you playing on a controller?
And after farming some materials, we came up with a 2000 IQ strategy to make clubs and bolas to knock out a pteranodon in the most barbaric way possible. But anyways, I set up a mortar and pestle for trank arrows while Granty got assaulted by Dilos.
Might have the first death.
We regrouped, and I think he accidentally led one back to base or something, because 5 seconds later, there was a degenerate munching on Gary. It's a Dillo.
Are you clubbing it? Nah, he's going down.
Help! Oh, let's go.
Oh.
Bro passed out with 8 spears in his back and woke up being named Karen. Wait, oh, it's a male. Okay, well, his name's Karen. On day 2, we used our proprietary strategy to improve another pteranodon's sleep, and we desperately needed narco berries, so we simultaneously incapacitated these fine gentlemen. And then I practiced my PvP skills on this Phiomia. He gave me a lifetime supply of, well, Phiomia. So I split all of his meat into stacks of 1, that way it would all spoil at the same time. And after getting some narco berries, that allowed me to make approximately 34 narcotics. And at this point, we were finally high enough level for a pteranodon saddle. Nice. We need 75 keratin to craft the saddle. We also decided to try and hire a trike as our bodyguard.
Oh, you're getting boxed.
I got deleted. Honestly, this was the most beach bob knockout I've ever experienced. But eventually, I managed to bring the guy down while Granty led away a Carno to protect us.
It's killing a baby moss chops right now.
We still needed more keratin for the pteranodon saddle though, so we farmed some projectiles. We poached this turtle for his shell, and we ended off the day by relaxing by the bonfire. Oh! On day 3, we stole some more keratin from a trike.
Ah!
And at this point, our trike was finally tamed. So we got everybody ready, and we set out to the northeast lake, where we were gonna set up an exquisite base. Our goal is to fight the alpha bosses on server difficulty though, and that's gonna take some next level strategies. Which honestly, that's one of the reasons why I like ARK so much compared to all these random mind-numbing mobile games out there. And when I said mind-numbing mobile game, what was the first thing that came to your mind? Raid Shadow Legends. To be honest, I thought this game wasn't going to be very deep, but it's been a couple weeks now, and I'm about 8,000 meters below sea level. There's over 800 different champions in this game, and you'll need to find different combinations that work for each type of content. And speaking of new content, Raid recently released their biggest update since the Doom Tower, the Cursed City. It has over 100 new stages to complete, each with unique restrictions, and some even have 2 bosses to take down at the same time. For me though, the strategy of this game really shines in the PvP arenas, where I try to outsmart other players with different combos of tanks and damage dealers. I also realized that you can use gear to manipulate your turns, and it's kind of funny to just watch yourself go twice in a row and win before they even get to attack. So yeah, the game has some depth, but it still has a reputation of being a grindy pay-to-win mobile game. And yeah, it is true that this game has a lot of content, and it's also true that you can put some money into the game to progress faster. But the cool thing is, none of that is actually required. Just ask any of Raid's biggest content creators. They all have free-to-play accounts, and they're even doing a challenge for it. The game is also cross-platform, so you can have a bit of flexibility of when and where you want to raid, and it also has a multi-battle mode, where you can essentially just AFK through some of the grind and come back to mountains of new loot. So if you want to see some of that strategy that I was talking about earlier, you can join my clan, Justifies Jungle, and if you use my QR code on screen right now, or you click the link in the description below, you'll get 500,000 silver, some energy, and a chicken. Chickens are used to make your champions more powerful, by the way. I figured I should probably clarify that. So yeah, I'll see you guys in game, and thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. So we cautiously explored our surroundings as Trike Wazowski evicted our previous tenants. And then I tried to kite this sociopath away from our cliff. But shortly after that, the dude just came right back, and then he attempted assault with a deadly claw on my entire cult. So I grabbed the pteranodons and I ran, leaving Karen and the parasaurs behind. And I don't understand how, but Karen was just chilling in the aftermath, not a scratch. We then realized that we probably needed to secure the area, so Granty started grinding some gates while I set up a base. There were some casualties in the process as the neighboring degenerates found out that we existed. No, Terry.
Oh, not me. No.
But luckily, Trike Wazowski has insane knockback and was able to control the situation. I finally got a temporary bed and storage set up, but this random Trike had no respect for my personal space, so I farmed his garrison. And at this point, Granty had a lot more done than I did with some wood gates set up below the cliff. And I was kind of slacking off a bit, but eventually I got a forge set up and I started farming a little bit of metal. And after getting 3 amazing saddles that I'll never use from this job, I admired the craftsmanship of Granty's gates. And then for some reason, I literally never used them. I just slipped through this little hole in the side every time instead. And then I witnessed Granty commit a war crime. Dude placed a spiked wall in between a baby galley and its mother. The poor thing literally just deceased, trying to get back to its mom. There is a juvenile galley that just killed itself next to you. That's crazy.
Oh, dude.
Anyways, there was a yellow drop close by, so I went and grabbed it, even though I don't think I'll need C4, unless Granty goes rogue or something. But I also saw a red drop in the snow, and I got a blueprint for a Mastercraft Theory saddle. This is absolutely insane, because Theories are the best option to take down Doug. And he is one of the hardest bosses in this entire game. And these saddles are going to reduce their damage taken by a pretty insane amount. And that is basically required when we're playing on this official difficulty settings. I still had barely farmed any metal at this point, but those drops gave me some foundations, and honestly, I think I got more metal this way. So I made a smithy and some metal tools to advance us out of the Stone Age. And then I started grinding. Meanwhile, Granty was taming a new pteranodon.
I'm about to hit a clip for your video. Yup. Put me in that description.
And while he was farming some chitin for a saddle, I started trying to lay out our base design. The crafting station in the middle will get moved, but for now, I just kind of built around it, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was going for yet. But I did know that I wanted it to be unique. I'm not gonna build a stereotypical sloped roof house, okay? I normally don't have time to build houses in my videos, so this was actually kind of fun. And now that we had the area blocked off, we pulled all our materials to craft a raft. And after Granty almost fell overboard, we scouted around for a while, and all of the locals seemed to be lacking in the level department. But eventually, we managed to find this 130 in the middle of a massive flock of RGs.
See it?
Oh yeah, I see it.
And so we cleared the area, and Granty set up a trap. And then he got incapacitated by a scorpion.
Oh, I got knocked out. Could you feed me some stimberries by chance? Just a few.
These ones?
No.
And I kited the RG through while he closed off the back with the door frame.
Yeah, that man is not going anywhere.
And during his slumber, I fed the dude some prime meat, and I waited approximately 11 minutes and 16 seconds. But now we have a giant bird. So on day 6, we headed over to Metal Mountain. There was a giant Giga living there, and I got a bit scared. But Granty found a 135 Anki, and he dropped it in this ruin over here for me to shoot repeatedly with narcotic-laced arrows. Bro has about 12 arrows in his nostril right now. And then after proving that we live in a simulation, this wild PT landed on our raft, and that's just unacceptable. So I tied him up and fed him some NyQuil.
No free rides.
Anyways, we wanted to do a metal run when this Anki was finished, so I went ahead and made a refining forge for the raft. And while I was waiting on him to tame, I grabbed some pretty decent drops. But then Granty found an Alpha Carno, which would be perfect for power leveling our RG's weight to do bigger metal runs. But what we didn't anticipate, however, was that this was a lot more difficult than we thought. This fight lasted for like 10 minutes, and I had to keep running away to periodically heal up. But then the Carno bribed some random bugs to sabotage me, and they drained all of my stamina. And then during a brief moment of weakness, he immediately put Granty on hold and sprinted over to Control-Alt-Delete my bird. Luckily, the favor was returned to these bugs. And then I spectated from a distance, may or may not have put all my money on the Carno. But eventually we made it back to the raft, victorious. And then Granty got absolutely destroyed by...
Oh, I just fell off my RG.
Are you good?
No.
But I brought it back over, and luckily the RG was still good. So while he stayed and
What?
watched the Anki tame, I decided to go back to Carno Island and try to find a good saber-tooth so we could take on some of these caves. They were all mid. On day 8, after we both tried to land on the invisible rock, the Anki was finally finished and Granty started grinding some metal while I was looking around the volcano area for good sabers to use in the artifact caves. I searched like the entire mountain area, and I even came back to Carno Island, but I didn't find a single saber-tooth over level 100. Granty was finishing up with his metal run at this point though, and I decided to grab a shotgun from this red drop, and we both headed back to our humble abode, where Granty spawn trapped the beaver's entire house after he built it, and we geared up to search the snow. We were hoping to find a good direwolf since sabers are extinct for some reason, but we were also looking for megatheriums for the Broodmother fight. They actually get a buff when fighting bugs, and, well, she's a pretty big bug, and that makes them the best in slot option for this specific fight. We searched all day though, and the only thing I found was a titan that hasn't mastered the art of gravity yet. But right at the end of day 8, Granty kidnapped this level 115 direwolf and proceeded to hold this man directly above my head while I removed his consciousness. He stayed with the tame while I went out to look for another so we could both have one to ride for the caves. But then this happened. Oh, good times. Since I got Granty's bird killed, he dropped me off by this direwolf and he brought me over this level 95 saber that I found right before that happened. So bro got the same treatment as the direwolf, and it's a bit unfortunate that we couldn't get a better one, but we decided to knock out this low-level direwolf as well to breed the stats onto. Our luck finding these guys has been absolutely horrendous, and this bad luck just gets worse and worse as the video progresses, but you'll definitely see that later. But anyways, we headed home, and Granty flew home with a good direwolf, and I ran home on the saber, and apparently now the game decides to spawn a good saber-tooth. There's not really anything I can do about that, so I just kind of headed back home. I tried to take the RG over and find that level 140 saber, but I didn't have much luck, so I just brought back this level 70 direwolf to breed the stats onto. But this guy actually decided to use his brain, and he actually fought back, which made it impossible for me to hold him still for Granty to shoot. So we ended up dropping him into our gates, and we kind of chased him around on our mounts. This was definitely not the most efficient way to knock him out, but eventually I hit the final shot. But unfortunately, the dude fell asleep under the water. And believe it or not, instead of just simply breathing the water, the dude had the audacity to just drown. So at this point, we kind of just gave up on breeding direwolves, and instead I rode the mid-tooth while Granty had the good direwolf. We practiced our combat skills on this Rex. He was level 10. And after a pretty long run and a bit of healing up, we headed into the cave and we took off our armor because the Arthros are going to disintegrate it anyways. But we had no idea what was about to happen next. We didn't really find much until we hit the central cavern. And at that point, these bats were doing more damage than my saber, and within 3 seconds of arrival, Granty had already contracted a highly contagious disease known as megarabies. Both of our tames were dying fast, and we were so close to each other that we just kept passing the megarabies back and forth, resetting the timer every 3 seconds. Infinite disease glitch. We managed to take them to bats, but then this singular Arthro almost erased my existence. Basically, we made it a solid 15 steps into the cave, and I was already running for the exit. We made some sleeping bags, and after my immediate demise, we made sure to social distance ourselves while I gave Granty my professional medical opinion. And after Granty revitalized, I got terrorized by a bat, and then Granty immediately contracted mega rabies again.
Rabies again.
I didn't get it. What do you mean? But this time, when I tried to delete him and his rabies, I accidentally had Tranks selected, and I lodged one directly into his left eyebrow. And I proceeded to miss about 10 shots after that.
This is point blank range, bro.
I'm literally hitting him, am I not? So we reluctantly headed back into the cavern, and Granty just full sent it right into the pack. And while that man was getting absolutely destroyed, my game just crashed, and Granty tried to protect me while I got my 8 hours of beauty sleep, but he wasn't able to hold him off, so he just made a bed for me at the top to spawn back. Luckily, they didn't kill my saber somehow. And we managed to finish clearing the central cavern and heal up a little bit. Granty actually told me that turning off frame generation helps with these crashes, but like, I literally have a 4090 and I still barely get 60 FPS even with frame gen on. I don't know how I'm gonna ever make such a big decision. But after sniping this Arthro and before I could even make my mind up on the frame generation thing, we both had to go disinfect ourselves from the rabies again. This is a little scuffed. Yeah. As we continued on, we tried to stick to the left side and aggro as little bugs as possible.
Damn, bro, you got all the bugs on you.
There were some super high level Arthros over here, which was a bit scary. But in this game, Arthros take extremely increased damage to projectiles. So we just kind of shot them for like 300 damage with our crossbows. Crossbows to the head do 700 damage to these dudes. So that's kind of insane. But anyways, the rest of the cave wasn't too bad, and we eventually secured the artifact of the Clever. That took almost 2 entire days though, and that was supposed to be one of the easiest caves, by the way. This was the first sign that the server difficulty was gonna be a lot more difficult than we had in mind. On day 12, Granty grinded out some wood while I tried to figure out how I wanted the front of the base to look. Within our last Pteranodon got eviscerated by a Trudon.
Well, now we don't have a PT.
No, we do not. And the rest of the day pretty much just consisted of Granty setting up a throne for Karen. Me realizing I accidentally built our base out of fake walls. Us getting raided by a beaver that, understandably, wanted revenge, and an astronomical amount of farming.
Check this out. I think I got a pretty genius idea.
So after setting up the base, we decided to organize our storage boxes using painting canvas. Granty showcased his creative genius, and it turns out I might be related to Bob Ross. Then Granty logged out for a minute, so I tried to write Karen was here on his chest while he was AFK, but he came back before I could finish. Yeah, we've officially transcended all PvE mobs. So now that we could organize and keep all of the items that we'll never use in true ARK hoarder fashion, Granty set up some refining forges and started cooking. And since our Pteranodons were indisposed at the moment, we headed to Carno Island to try and get a breeding pair of Argies. I then abandoned Granty in the wild while he set up his trap, and I kited away all of the other Argies while he trapped a 125 that was on the little island in the back. These raids were definitely a bit elongated, but after some prime meat and an entire night of waiting, Cheeto was freed from his enclosure, and I headed back to base to grind some wood while Granty was staring at something, and we started to look for some good megatheriums in the snow area. On this difficulty, we're gonna need to breed for mutations, meaning we need to get started super early. But instead of finding a good megatherium, I had found an underground degenerate. So I stood on this rock as Granty got revenge on my mortal enemy. And we ended off the day by taming a new Argy to replace the one that somebody lost. This time I was setting up the trap though, and I don't understand how he does it. The door frame literally will not snap in the correct spot, and the Argy just kept entering and leaving like he owned the place. I tried again with different structures, and yeah, this is physically impossible on a controller. This is why I use gateways. Anyways, after watching me struggle for like 5 minutes, Granty just walked up and instantly placed the wall that he was holding the entire time. I think I just got trolled. So yeah, we fed the dude some Diplo for breakfast, and Granty kept looking for megatheriums while I waited patiently to name this man Cluck Norris. Been saving that one up for a while, not gonna lie. But now that I had an RG2, we both locked in, and we decided we were gonna find a megatherium. For real this time. On day 19, we met up at the lower south cave to get the artifact of the hunter. Yeah, we wasted an entire 2 days without finding a megatherium. It's getting pretty bad at this point. Anyways, we raced to the central cavern, and surprisingly, there wasn't any psychopaths in here trying to murder us. Victory! But I did manage to find the best hide chest piece I've seen in my entire life from this green drop. This thing was better than my flak and the insulation of fur armor, like, combined. So yeah, we made our way through, slaying all of the 8-legged miscreants in our path. We made it to the artifact pretty easily. This cave doesn't have bats, which in my opinion makes it the easiest cave in the game. The ARK throws are definitely a bit of a menace to society though, but so is my crossbow. On our way out of the cave, we found 2 conveniently placed dung beetles, and Granty was trying to enter an alternate dimension or something. I don't know what bro was doing right here. Tames were feeling a bit shy in the defecation department, so we just fed these dung dudes some meat that spoiled like a year ago, and it made them very happy. So we brought these little unhygienic fellas back to our base, and on day 20, I set up some crop plots while Granty went to the redwoods to look for some beehives. We wanted to get some veggie cakes going early on, that way we wouldn't have to wait around later when we needed them. I also made a cage, and I gave this guy a very authoritarian name. And our rooftop farm is coming along pretty nicely. Meanwhile, Granty hadn't found any bees, but he did manage to tame a new pteranodon. And since the good megatheriums are all on vacation, we thought it would be a cool idea to use spinos since they get a water buff. And there's a tiny little puddle in the Broodmother arena that counts as water. But we searched for the rest of the day, and we didn't find any of those either. We do need spino sales for the alpha monkey fight though, so that's something, I guess. On day 21, the beetles had fertilized, so I planted some crops, and we started breeding this level 14 pteranodon with our good one that was way out of his league. So yeah, we got triplets that had 300 health and were all female. We literally just needed one male, or, you know, a female that had more than 1 hit worth of health. Anyways, we set up a fabricator, and we did some chores around the base. And we spent the rest of the day, once again, looking for megatheriums, looking for spinos, and crafting some ammo for our shotguns. On day 22, we grabbed a few backup eggs from our flyers, and then we dueled this alpha raptor to level up our PT's combat skills. Bro was low-key destroying me though, so he must have been a super high level.
There's no way this thing's level 5.
Anyways, Granty spotted a level 135 Theory earlier, and since we weren't having much luck with megatheriums, we decided to take what we can get at this point. So he set up a trap on the beach while I went on an expedition to find this guy. And if you haven't played ARK Ascended yet, the pathfinding on this game is very different from Evolve. Essentially, creatures will just avoid traps with every fiber of their being, especially these ramp traps that have a drop-off. The big brain strategy here, though, is to get them to attack right at the top of the ramp so the lunge makes them fall in. It's kind of hit or miss, but I have officially outplayed Pixelated Dinosaur. Gonna have to add that one to my resume. Man did half my health in 2 hits. So Granty and his fur hat used watching this guy tame as an excuse to go AFK. Well, I started looking for spinos again for the Broodmother fight. By the way, we had no idea if this would actually work or not. It just kind of sounded like a cool idea, but they all kind of sucked anyway, so I just poached them for their sales. Meanwhile, Granty managed to tame another low-level Theory for breeding, and after clearing all the rivers on the entire map, I started searching for megatheriums again. And to be honest, this might be the worst luck I've ever had. On my entire 5,000 hours of this game, trying to find a high level of anything, it usually doesn't take more than a couple hours at the most. The only productive thing I managed to do in 2 entire days was place an industrial grill at our base. On day 25, we started breeding Theories to try and get a male with all the correct stats. And there were a lot of executions. Look man, if they would have simply just genetically mutated or something, then that wouldn't have happened. Anyways, it started to get too hot for the eggs to hatch around here, so I made this little hole and put a box under the floor. And I placed some air conditioners inside so the eggs would incubate by just dropping them anywhere on our dock. We realized that 2 wasn't enough though, and in the process of making 4, we kinda got stuck in a hole. So yeah, I spent the rest of day 25 as a bystander witnessing Granty slay baby RGs right in front of their siblings. And then we ended off the day by going on a quick flint run to make some gunpowder for shotgun shells. And after that, we did a fat metal run in true ARK duo fashion. A little tip from my PvP days, the fastest way to deposit raw metal is to just popcorn drop it all on the ground for the other player to pick up. and I can just grab all and transfer it straight to the forge, regardless of the weight limit. Anyways, we were planning to do the upper south cave soon, but since we didn't have any shotguns yet, we decided to grab some pistols, and we headed to the Carno Island cave for the artifact of the Devourer. We do already have all the artifacts for the Broodmother, but we have a slight shortage of megatheriums at the moment, after searching for 4 hours, by the way. So yeah, we just decided to go for the monkey artifacts a bit earlier this time. So inside the cave, we kind of used the pistols to lead the bats straight into their demise. And since we already had a theory, it was honestly pretty easy, minus some mega rabies related incidents, of course. The theory actually might have had some issues if the bats at the bottom aggroed us, but luckily Granty was able to sneak around the side on his direwolf and grab the artifact. Stole that thing right under their rabid noses. On day 27, we started looking for megatheriums again. That's 5 hours of this run, by the way. But when I flew over the swamp, I found a 120 baryonyx, so I decided to recruit him to my cult. A baryonyx will be pretty crazy because not only do they have decent damage, but they also have no oxygen. Bro hasn't taken a breath in like 4 years, which is great for underwater caves and getting some of these ocean tributes for the bosses. Granty was still losing his mind searching for megatheriums right now, but I also managed to trap a low level berry, so we had 2 to breed and get imprints. These guys only eat fish though, so I invented a new method of fishing, and despite the bullet holes, they ate the whole thing in 1 bite. When I made it back to base, I instantly started breeding these guys, while Granty was taming another theory that he found while looking for megatheriums. Our current one is kind of average in everything, so we were hoping that this guy would actually have some form of talent. On day 29, Trike Wazowski went on a fishing trip to feed our potential baby baryonyx, and after a couple of them failed their entrance exam, Barry Potter has entered the chat. Dude had the good health and melee, which should be perfect for caves. And after waiting for like 40 minutes, Granty finally finished taming the theory. It only had like 1 point higher in melee than our other one, which is still not great, but we'll have to make that work. Back at base, I had a bunch of berry eggs ready, so Granty created the Circle of Life, and he hatched triplets with a mutation in food. Fortunately, he wasn't taking applications for competitive eaters, so he spent the rest of the day breeding them to get the good health in melee. And in the meantime, I started raising some theories to get a good breeding pair and start mutations. And this little guy set a great example by having the correct genetics on the 3rd try. And after making some shotgun shells, Granty went on a quick metal run, while I continued to find every baby theory that disobeyed my request of being female with good health and melee, and politely removing them from our residence. But in the process, I actually managed to get a male with a melee mutation, so I had to let him raise before we could continue the line. And while I was waiting, we started cooking an exorbitant amount of metal, and on day 32, we headed towards the west coast to take on the underwater cave. Berries are pretty good swimmers, but we didn't realize how bad they actually are at vertical movement. Like, look at Barry Potter. He can swim across the map with no problem, but if you want to wait on him to move up or down in the water, you're gonna have to block out a few days of vacation, maybe weeks. Anyways, we eventually made it down there, and this cave is super easy, normally. I mainly just needed to watch out for the eels trying to perform electroshock therapy on Barry Potter. The first section already started to cause problems though, as Granty got dismounted by a jellyfish. And I stunned everything with my Barry's tailspin to help him get back on. But by the time we made it to the central cavern, our health was, well, it wasn't full. And instead of giving them a break and waiting on them to heal up though, we scheduled them some overtime and we jumped straight into the next tunnel. It was eerily quiet in here, and for a moment, I actually thought that this might be easy. It turns out that the eels and some megalodons were hiding in the dark alleyways of seaweed, and within seconds there was a combination of thugs and sociopaths surrounding Barry Potter. We both started spinning, trying to stun the dudes, but the eels like clipped through us and prevented us from moving. I managed to get away, but Granty was unfortunately stuck on one of these little fiber optic dudes, and despite me trying to stun them, Long John Silver was erased from consciousness. Dude, the eels are faster than the berries. I managed to get away with just a little sliver of health. Okay, never mind. I meant to say Barry Potter has perished. This eel is on land biting me right now. Okay, well.
You gotta start a new life down there, bro.
We contemplated what to do for a while, and we decided that we wanted to try and get Granty's body back because he had some pretty decent gear. So at the base, he grabbed my other berry with good health and melee, but bad stamina. I named him Asthma. I waited patiently as Granty traversed the universe to get back over here, and when he finally arrived, I headed back in on Asthma and I started picking off eels one by one. But once the level 280 Megalodon started assaulting me, I was already down to half health. We decided to take it slow for now and heal up a bit in between each attempt. And Granty almost got sniped by an eel from like 30 foot away while he was on the land. So I landed in my shotgun so he could provide some support as I kited over each menace. And once this first section was clear, I went back into the tunnel because it actually did seem pretty doable.
There's only there's like 5. Oh no, there's a lot more than 5.
Yeah, I ran, and back by the land after slowly picking these guys off and spending like 10 minutes healing up, I reluctantly made my way back into the tunnel, and I picked off this one eel, and then 4 more came to say hi, and I got a bit scared, but Asma handled it pretty well. But then the electroshock therapy slowly turned into electroshock torture. Dudes just kept spawning out of nowhere. I literally couldn't move, and there was like 15 eels just going ham. I honestly don't know how I made it out, and I honestly don't know why a developer decided to put 436 eel spawns in the same spot. But while I was healing up on the land here, Granty headed back to base again to try to find us a solution. Yeah, I had to go back and heal up again. I'm not having the greatest time right now. But on day 34, the 3rd day of us being in this insane asylum, Granty made it back with some grapples this time. And while I distracted the asylum's most severe patients, Granty grappled above the water.
Oh, dude, they're coming out of the water to try and get me.
I was pretty low health, but I did manage to survive, and Granty eventually made his way to the top side tunnel where he ran into a different problem.
Oh no, I hear a bat.
But he managed to clutch up, and after he made his way around, he dropped in right above the artifact, like one of those covert spy missions. Bro managed to steal the artifact right next to this manta. And the eels were too busy over here frying my berry to even notice.
It's only gonna take me like an hour to fly this thing back to base.
And when we finally settled back in at base, we placed down the industrial forge that Granty found after dying in the cave the first time. At least something good came from our suffering. The mutated dairy was finally raised as well. The dude's pink, by the way. So I started hatching some eggs to get the stats onto a female. That took up most of the day, and after that we raised some new baryonyx to replace the ones lost in the, war crimes of the day before. By day 36, we already had several theories with a good health stat, the melee mutation, and most importantly, they were pink. Meanwhile, Granty was heading to the snow to find a Yudi for the boss fights, because the Yudi roar gives a 25% damage and resistance buff to all of your tames, which will stack with our good saddles. So after he set up a trap over there, and I cryo-sicked a bunch of baby theories because our base was too full, Granty sniped this man from a distance and tricked him into falling into a square. And between that overprotective Yudi tamer with a shotgun, and this other psychopath that only tolerates babies with genetic mutations, the island experienced a lot of casualties that day. On day 37, I defended our honor from some beavers, and I started grinding some hide around the base because we're gonna need a lot. Each theory saddle takes like 3,600 hide, and we're gonna need 19 of them, so that's like, well, let me see some quick maths real quick. Is that 72,000? So yeah, the blueprint for that saddle that we found, it's pretty good, but the amount that it costs for that level of armor is super expensive. Bro, I can't even get away from inflation in a dinosaur video game. So about halfway through the day, the Yudi was finished taming, so Granty stuck the dude in a Pokeball and flew back to base. We wanted to stick around for a bit to make sure that all these theories got imprint, so we decided to go on a flint run around the base to make some more shotgun shells. Because we were planning on setting up an industrial cooker for med brews and a chem bench for gunpowder. And I stuck around to do some crafting while Granty went to the snow to show no mercy as he clubbed some penguins for their polymer. I also set up a brand new smithy to exclusively use for this theory saddle grind. We honestly probably need like 6 or 7 smithies just to fit all the materials, but this will work for now. And at this point, Granty had enough polymer for the chem bench, but I realized we were running pretty low on electronics. And electronics are pretty important when you live in the dinosaur age. So I grabbed my mega rabies vaccine and I headed to the open waters to farm some silica pearls. They're actually a bit more difficult to spot on this game compared to ARK Evolved, but the island island has never been that great for farming them anyways. Well, unless you go to these caves that are literally called pearl caves, and there's a lot of pearls in them. And that would be a valid point, except for the fact that I'm too lazy to do a 10-second Google search. Mega Rabies vaccine was already on life support after fighting like 2 Megalodons though, so I probably wasn't gonna last out here much longer. And since I literally can't run away from combat because the berries have the worst vertical swimming in this entire millennium, I headed out. I did manage to get a few stacks of pearls though, so we set up a chem bench on day 39, and Granty was getting everything ready for me while we were gone, so now we were ready to head to the upper south cave to get the last artifact to take down Megapithecus. After we made our arrival, we made our way through the entrance and we started some beef with the locals. And then while Granty was getting boxed by this bat, I just kind of casually jumped straight off the cliff right into a pit of bugs that disintegrated all of the clothing that I was wearing. And then while I was sitting there naked on my baryonyx, I contracted the highly contagious mega rabies from this bat. Good times. But anyways, this cave doesn't really have that much for the first half.
Yeah, they had us the first half, I'm not gonna lie. They had us.
And that's probably because the central ruins contained about 834 bats and a couple aquatic centipedes. We were prepared though, and Granty was able to skip half of the cave by just grappling up this little cliff. I actually didn't bring any grapples for myself though, so on the way out, Granty had to throw his down for me. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of embarrassed to tell him how bad I failed, but I was kind of stranded on this stick and couldn't move. So then he shot a grapple into my left shoulder blade and pulled me to safety. I owe that man my life. When we made it back to base and the army of mutated theory children had all grown up, we decided to go on a quick metal run, and while we were out, we talked about our strategy. And since all of the Megatheriums are still not back from their business trip, we decided that we'll just use this line of theories we have, and we're gonna level their health to around 30 or 40k and use them to take down Megapithecus. And then hopefully later, we'll have some more melee mutations so we can have a new line of theories to take down Doug. Those ones we would put to 21k health, that way we can pump way more melee, and the reasoning for that is that Doug's fire breaths do a percentage of damage to your theories. So it really doesn't matter how much health they have, they're gonna take the same percentage every time. Which means the only thing you really need to consider is the fact that veggie cakes can heal a maximum of 2100 health, but it won't do that much unless you have at least 21,000 health because it heals 10% at a time. 21k is the exact sweet spot. But anyway, I'm sorry for all that rambling. I know some of you guys like it when I explain the strategy, but we still did need to find some Megatheriums, and we also needed an insane amount of hide for these theory saddles. So we decided that it would probably be the best idea to try to knock those two things out at the same time. So for the next like 8 days, we just started grinding some hide, and we did it in the snow as much as possible so we could look for Megatheriums at the same time. Maximum efficiency. So I would like to point out that we searched for Megatheriums while farming hide for over 4 hours. Someone needs to investigate these Megatherium PTO policies. Not a single high level one of them is in existence. Anyways, Granty is still searching for them as we speak, while I was checking some caves for Megalanias. We need Megalania toxin for the monkey fight, and they are super rare, but luckily we only need to find one because we can just exploit the dude for the same Megalania toxin over and over again. I'll show you that when we find one though. Anyways, we still didn't have the last Broodmother artifact after all this time. I guess we just kind of forgot about it. So I saddled up Terabyte and I carried Granty to the lava cave. We checked for some more Spinos as our Megatherium alternative on the way there, but they weren't worthy.
But he got melted.
When we entered the lava cave, there was a lot less in here than I'm used to, and it turns out that Granty takes the left path. Not gonna lie, I found that kind of weird because I've never met anyone that does that, but he also told me that I was weird for taking the right path, so I guess fair enough. It turns out that it really didn't matter though, because there was just so much less stuff in this cave than normal. I don't know what happened to all the bats, but I'm not complaining. We actually did use my route on the way out, by the way, and Granty got to experience the true fear of jumping over this little ledge. Rest in peace to Harambe, by the way. That was probably the easiest cave so far, and I'm assuming Wildcard was a bit disappointed that they forgot to put the 937 bat spawns in there. So after I picked up Granty, and I carried him home halfway across the map, by the way, this happened. Nice.
What? Bro, I'm back at the lava cave.
Well, I'm all the way back over here now, and it's also nighttime now. When we made it back to base, Granty headed to the redwoods to check all of the tree sap tabs. We needed the sap to combine with the honey he just farmed to make some veggie cakes. And then I also realized that we still don't have enough hide to make the saddles. We've been grinding hide for like 4 hours, and there's 2 of us. Is there any way I can just take out alone? So yeah, I'm back at Carno Island now, and I figured I should probably just get it over with. But then an Alpha Rex spawned and I got kind of scared. We actually haven't killed one of these guys for the Overseer tribute yet though, so I called out to Granty for some help, and we started hash slinging slashing. And eventually, after I removed this guy from his existence, I stole his Alpha Tooth, kind of like the prehistoric Tooth Fairy. Alright, well, that took another hour. We still don't have enough hide, by the way. But on day 52, we wanted to get the rest of the tributes for the monkey fight because we were gonna duel this man as soon as the saddles are ready. So I trimmed some thylus fingernails in the redwoods, while Granty went to the Carno Island cave to find a Megalania and borrow some of its toxin. But they all went on vacation. At this point, I had all of the Thylaclaws though, so I removed the sails from a couple more Spinos, and now all we needed was the Megalania toxin, and like 20,000 more hide. There were a bunch of Brontos around here though, and luckily they volunteered to be turned into Theory saddles, so I obliged. And back at the base, Granty had turned all of the metal into its ingot form, and he was also farming a ton of wood for the Theory saddles because they need 1,500 each. I'm not really sure how 3,500 hide, 1,500 wood, and 700 metal fits into one tiny saddle. I feel like our company needs to reevaluate how much material is getting wasted during production. But anyways, I grinded like 15k hide from those Brontos, and at this point we had a full smithy and a full baryonyx. That's entire life goal was to be slot capped with hide. Oh, and several full storage boxes as well. We were close enough at this point though, so I ate this purple soup that erased my memory. And I replaced all of my various talents with the sole ability to craft a saddle. The entire process of crafting these saddles with 100 weight and limited inventory space actually took like 45 minutes, but Granty kind of brought everything over for me and made sure to keep up with farming wood and fiber as I monotonously crafted one saddle at a time. Since I had 105 points into my crafting skill though, most of these saddles came out way better than the original 65 armor, with the best one having almost 90. And that does sound pretty crazy, but since we're taking on alpha difficulty without single player settings, this is 100% necessary, and it still might not even be enough to be honest. Almost every other 100 days on YouTube is using single player settings, or like some of my other challenges, it's on this same difficulty but only fighting the gamma bosses. Honestly, this is meant for large groups of people with heavily mutated tames, so I'm not sure what to expect. But anyways, finally, at the end of day 54, we finally had 18 Theory saddles, saving the last 2 spots for a Yudi and a Daedon. I ate another purple soup and relearned all my abilities, by the way. And on day 55, we set out to finally get some Megalania types. Granty decided to check the upper south cave this time, and I checked the hunter cave again, but I accidentally threw my Theory out a little bit too early, and he's kind of, large to fit through this entrance. So I kind of just checked on foot and I didn't really see anything. But because of the whole Theory issue that I just had going on right there, I didn't realize I still had cryo sickness, and I ended up throwing out Terabyte too early, just straight incapacitated with cryo sickness on the beach. Yeah, it definitely wasn't a very productive day. And on day 56, Granty checked the Carno Island Cave again, while I checked the Hunter Cave again, and yeah, I think Wildcard is trolling our server at this point. But eventually, I got desperate and I tried checking the Lava Cave. We've both never seen them in here before, but the wiki says that they do spawn here. And sure enough, I found the very last Megalania in existence, practicing his rock climbing skills. Bro's playing some pretty extreme sports over there. If that man falls, he's gonna get roasted. So Granty made his way over after I told him the good news. We were both super relieved that we wouldn't have to waste another 10 days on RNG like we did with those Megatheriums. Still haven't found one of those guys, by the way. Anyway, Granty set up a little safety net down here for this gravity denier. And he was a bit tired from all the rock climbing, so while he was sleeping, we did him a nice favor and we removed some of his toxin. And then we kind of exploited this man, and Granty just repeatedly shot him with a tranquilizer every time he woke up. Kept on borrowing some more toxin and then feeding him stimulants to make him wake up faster. Then as soon as the dude woke up from his slumber, he proceeded to just get tranked to sleep again. That man's body is going through the Revolutionary War right now. On the way home, we harvested some aloes for their brains. Okay, that sounds kind of weird. It's for the Doug fight, and yeah, Doug's got some issues. But when we made it back to base, we started getting all the theories saddled up with the good saddles. I named a couple of them after my Patreon and YouTube members. And since we're playing on a Nitrado server and not single player, we don't have to go to obelisks. We can just start a boss fight straight from a supply drop. So after we got prepared, we waited around a while for a drop to come down. We rounded up all the theories and brought them over to this blue drop that was descending from outside the simulation. And then Granty offered Papapithecus 3 various artifacts and a bunch of random body parts from creatures. I really hope that we correctly prepared for this. When we entered the arena, Granty took the Yudi and he ran up the staircase. I tried to make sure that all the theories were in this back corner so they couldn't get knocked off the map. Papapithecus was very angry to see Granty entering his home, and once he kited him back across the bridge, there was no turning back. I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of funny. But now without Granty or the Yudi's help, I would have to do this on my own. Okay, we didn't die. Well, some of us did. But the important thing is Papapithecus is no longer with us, and I can still grab all these saddles off the ground for the next fight. There's no chance you'll see me grind 70,000 hide again. When we arrived back home, I gave Granty all of his stuff back, and I decided to set up a wall mount with Papapithecus's face as a warning to Doug. On day 59, Granty hatched some baby pterodons. And after the theories got fed as a reward for not dying, we spent the rest of the day looking for Megatheriums. On day 60, I continued my expedition to find a Megatherium, and Granty joined in to help. We've spent around 6 or 7 hours now between the two of us looking for these guys, and it's getting to the point where we legitimately thought there was something wrong with our server, and we were almost ready to give up and just attempt the Broodmother with our theories, even though on this difficulty, that would almost guarantee a fail with our current levels of mutations. But then, right at the end of day 60, it finally happened.
Oh my god. I just found a 140.
So Granty just sat there and stared at this man while I went to grab a trap and some trank arrows. And after we tricked the guy into getting stuck inside of a square, I tried to trap this other level 80 with him because we needed a breeder, and I had zero confidence that another Megatherium has ever walked this earth. But every time I led bro up the ramp, he just looked down at what happened to his cousin and then walked the other way. Meanwhile, Granty actually managed to find us an Ovis.
There's Datons. They just killed it and went after something else.
And my pterodon was pretty low from trying to kite all of these megatheriums. So while I was grinding for another trap, I didn't notice, but the dude ran back over and deleted all of Terabyte's data before I could whistle him away. Anyways, a Minecraft enchantment was finally tamed. And even though the trap wasn't very appealing to this guy, we managed to knock him out the old-fashioned way. And after he finished his 5-course mutton meal and we were about to head home, I found a level 135 Yudi, which we needed because of, that. But just as I was trying to tell Granty about it, he found a level 135 female megatherium. I guess the game just forgot to spawn in high levels for like 60 days and then just spammed them all at once or something. We decided that the megatherium was the priority though because we wanted a bit better melee. He decided to go for a swim and instead got trank arrows to the side of the head. I guess this dude would rather drown than be tamed. After a few shots though, Granty slipped and the dude fell right off the cliff. But I clutched up and I grabbed him straight out of the water seconds before disaster.
Oh no! This game, bro.
Okay, yeah, this game's pretty bad. We did get some good shots in though when bro went AFK for a minute while staring at this rock. And our two biggest fans got to watch from the front row. And now it was time to trap this Yudi. I always hate doing this. Whenever they roar, my RG gets scared and then he goes and runs to his mother. But for some reason, the Yudi didn't want me and he had his sights set on this random Daedon. So I scooped up his lunch money and I used it as bait to kite him. It took a while, but eventually we got him. The Daedon was also a high level though. Yeah, I know, this swing of luck is actually kind of insane. So I tried to drop him into a box that Granty set up. And I proceeded to get roasted for being bad.
Is it not big enough?
I had to farm like 60 prime meat for this dude because he has a binge eating disorder. But on day 63, Snoop Hogg was finally tamed. And we brought our 5 new tames back to base while we discussed the various tech engrams that I had and Granty did not. He shouldn't have got killed by that rock. I think that's the 3rd time I've mentioned it. I'm not letting him live that down. Anyways, we started breeding the megatheriums and the goal was to do the Broodmother next since we had all the artifacts already. But the baby megatheriums refused to have good stats and despite them hiding in their mother's tail, my shotgun found them. Isn't it kind of wild how this is just another normal day on the Ark? Meanwhile, Granty was visiting Shrek's hometown, sniping Sarcos, so we could use their skin to summon a giant spider. I stuck around base for a while though because I was trying to get a good breeding pair of megatheriums while I also bred the theries for any potential mutations. And then I found an auto turret in this red drop by the lake, and for a brief moment, I had a flashback which gave me PTSD from my PvP days. So after slaying this weakling, I crafted a table, and I slayed some more unworthy life forms, and then I set up a cozy little office space for Karen. What? Yeah, I was still having those PvP flashbacks. We spent most of day 65 breeding.
The massacre.
And I decided to try and make the theory mutations a bit more efficient. So I set up this little ramp area, hoping the eggs would roll down the ramp. They did not. But we did hatch all of the eggs that we had saved up, and we induced a world record level of terror onto an entire generation of baby theories. I then made the discovery that you don't have to be on a horse to use a lance. So I tried challenging Granty to a joust, but instead he just made fun of me. I think he was just scared of my jousting abilities. You know, they used to call me Joustify. Okay, 70% of you probably just clicked off because that joke was actually horrendous.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
Anyways, at the end of the day, we managed to get a 175 theory, meaning it had a mutation. Let's go. So now we had some good megatheriums raising and a brand new 2-0 theory. The egg platform wasn't working the greatest though, and they kept falling through the floor. I can't complain though, because right after that melee mutation, we hatched a health mutation on a different theory. See, this is exactly what I was trying to tell them earlier. If they just genetically mutate, then they don't have to eat shotgun shells for breakfast. But yeah, we literally couldn't breed anymore because we had to wait on these millennial theories to raise before starting Gen Z. So we strategized for a bit, and we decided to go for Doug's first artifact, the Artifact of the Skylord. We managed to sneak into the exit cavern, and Granty used his grapples to flank up to the artifact. After he secured the cargo, he managed to escape with a 5-star rabies level. So yeah, it turns out that the easy snow cave was easy. In about 10 business days, he's gonna raid our base. When we made it back to base, Granty started using the theories that didn't pass their entrance exams to level the megatheriums, while I did the very important task of testing this Mastercraft harpoon gun that I just found chilling in the snow cave. This thing actually does 450 damage to the head, and it one-shots piranhas. Anyways, I decided it was probably time to, you know, actually be productive, so I crafted some scuba. And I set out to find a good bassie for the water cave, and a bunch of bad ones so I could steal their blubber to summon Doug. And so on day 72, yes, that took almost 2 hours, I finally found a good bassie, so I fed him the most prime piece of meat at my disposal. And then I literally sat here waiting for him to be hungry again for like 8 minutes or something like that. Dude took forever, but he miraculously gained an appetite, and I managed to get him about halfway tamed until this degenerate appeared out of nowhere and tried to eat me, which reset the entire bassie tame, and I had to wait for the initial feeding timer again. But eventually, I was able to start feeding him again, and then another sociopath tried to eat me. Yeah, the tame reset again. Back at base, it wasn't smooth sailing either. A random Theory killed 2 of our Megatheriums while Granty wasn't paying attention. So yeah, that's the story of how it took me over an hour to passive tame a bassie. But while I was out, Granty made us some more scuba, and I've been underwater for like 6 days in a row now, so I didn't want to go back to the ocean. But that's not what the scuba was for. The scuba was for the swamp cave, and we were going to try to get the artifact of the immune. This will be the second out of the 4 artifacts that we need for Doug. When we made it to the cave, Granty got assaulted by a raptor and displayed some of the worst accuracy that I've ever seen.
I can't hit it, bro. Dude, I'm actually gonna die. Oh my god.
And to think the dude tried to roast me for playing on controller. Like, my aim is way better than that.
Are you sure about that?
Anyways, try to ignore the fact that we have a combined 10,000 hours because you definitely won't be able to tell. So we slowly waddled into the cave because ARK is insanely realistic and scuba flippers are a requirement not to suffocate. Once we made it into the cave, our Megatheriums quickly got angry at the sight of some bugs. And they're kind of tall, so I couldn't see much in here, but I did briefly get a glimpse into the 4th dimension. And when we made it to the lake, I complained for the 25th time about how Wildcard took out the grapple spot to easily get the artifact, but we made our way around the manual way, and since Megatheriums have this bug buff, they do insane amounts of damage, and it makes this cave super easy. And then my Megatherium became best friends with like 6 leeches, and I didn't realize it at the time, but they actually gave me swamp fever. But eventually we waddled our way up to the artifact, and now we only need 2 more, the underwater cave and the snow cave, the 2 most difficult caves on the map. When we made it back to our humble abode, Granty informed me that I infected our entire village with swamp fever. So we both chugged a big green antidote made from rhino horns, and everything was all back to normal. We actually already had everything ready for the Broodmother, by the way, but the Megatheriums had 40k health after leveling, and we were gonna need to wait for a while for them to heal. I was also a bit worried about not having good saddles for them, but that's a problem for later. In the meantime, I was trying to get some more Theory mutations, and I realized that we probably should level the Daedon up a bit, so I set up some walls around the most popular spot for Theories to breed and perish. And Snoop Hogg ate good today, 90 damage at a time. Since we were grinding meat from this though, I also used him to speed up the Megatherium's healing a bit. And at the end of day 76, Granty went to farm some more honey for veggie cakes. And I went on another swim to tame another bassie for Granty to use because we were going to take on the water cave very soon. While I was out, I obtained some teeth from this alpha megalodon's mouth that we needed for the overseer. And at this point, the only tributes that were left were the Gigahearts and Tuso tentacles for Doug, and Alpha Moza and Alpha Tuso for the Overseer. Anyways, I tamed a 115 Bassie pretty quick this time, and I got back to base to continue my Theory Sling shenanigans, while still trying to heal the Megatheriums as much as possible. On day 78, Snoophog did some more of what he does best, and we managed to get a third melee mutation on the Theories, along with the 1 health mutation that we already had. That's not bad, and I just wish that their base stats would have actually been decent. But since we have to wait on this new mutation before we start breeding more, we decided to grab the Bassies and attempt the underwater cave. Bassies are immune to the eel's electroshock therapy, which makes them one of the best water tames in the entire game. I'm still super worried about this cave though, because there's alpha creatures in here, and it tends to overspawn sometimes. As we entered the cave, everything seemed pretty quiet, and I had high hopes. But then, this happened. Dude, why is there so much stuff in here? This is insane.
Oh, I made it out.
Yeah, I would like to have a quick word with the wildcard developer that decided this was a good idea. Is their mouse like broken or something? Did they mean to click 15 spawns and then they accidentally clicked 538.2 instead? Like, genuinely, why?
I have a question for God. Why?
Alright, well, that couldn't possibly have gone worse, but Granty did manage to get his body back with some grapples.
Oh, I'm literally him. The eels are right on my butt.
And Snoophog happily got his 18th meal of the day. I actually left him on aggressive inside that enclosure and kind of had a fully automated meat and level farm. Yeah, it's not a good day to be a baby theory. Okay, so we forgot to take the server offline. We were a little bit too busy rage quitting, and 30 entire days have passed while we were gone. I did manage to figure out how to change the day counter back to day 80, but the theories were breeding the entire time, and well, they've been putting in some work. There's like 8 families across 14 generations of theories just chilling inside this 2x3 box. So we removed the breeders from the arena, and then we instigated World War III. This is just like my 0 times rates video where the unclaimed monkeys had an uprising and tried to take over the world. Also, it seems like Snoophog just gets fed a slot cap of prime meat like hourly at this point. We still needed to get through the underwater cave of doom though. So Granty took out the raft and scouted around for some dolphins. This way we didn't have to fight the insane amount of overspawned creatures and we could just outswim everything instead. Meanwhile, I was at base and it was starting to get pretty late in the run. So I decided to stop going for mutations, and I started hatching this generation as a boss army to take down my mortal enemy, Doug. And after Granty finished taming his first Ichthy, he found this alpha lead, which we still needed for the Overseer tributes. So I brought him his Bat Eater 3000, and we disposed a squadron of aquatic nuisances. And then we took on this massive beast. And then the dude died almost instantly. Well, that was anticlimactic. Anyways, Granty needed my cryopod, so I was forced to join the cross-country team and run back to base. I hatched a bunch more theories, and I reverse hatched most of them, and then I had to reset the entire thing because I got another melee mutation. So while I waited on this dude to become a man, we geared up, we booked a flight to the beach, and we split up on our dolphins to scout the ocean. The goal was to find some Tusos so we could borrow their Squidward tentacles for the dragon tributes, maybe an Alpha Moza for the Overseer, and hopefully we could find a good Bassie or 2 so we could actually get the kills. Right when you said that, so after a solid 20-minute swim, we both covered our half of the map and we met up by this Bassie that Granty was taming. But he put that on hold for now because I knew where a low-level Alpha Moza was lurking in the depths. It took him like a solid 2 minutes to descend to my level thanks to this very talented baryonyx. But when we made it down, I sniped this man with a harpoon and he got scared and ran away. Bro, aren't you supposed to be like the king of the ocean? Anyways, this guy is only level 15, but he still had an insane amount of health. Luckily, he couldn't really hit us at all, so it was pretty easy. I don't think we would be breathing right now if he had any sort of talent whatsoever. That fight did take a while though, so Granty's Bassie was now getting hungry. And after he finished the tame, I decided to tame one of my own. Back at base, we started breeding an army of fairies with the new stats, and I harvested our crops while Granty went to retrieve some sap to make some more veggie cakes. We're gonna need as many of these as possible to even have a chance at taking down Doug. On day 84, we were almost ready to take on Mama Brood, so I kept hatching fairies so they could start growing. And after setting up a few more crop plots and using some fertilizer that was organically and locally produced by Reese's Feces, we should have enough crops for all of the veggie cakes. The megatheriums were almost healed, and Snoop Hogg topped them off after his 27-course meal. And while I continued hatching fairies, Granty started organizing the megatheriums into 2 different tame order groups. This way we could split up and try to control their movement a bit better in the boss fight. So after I had 18 good fairies, I added all of the megatheriums that Granty named 2222 to my tame order group. And then I fed Snoop Hogg for the 8th time to prepare for his breakfast. And there was already a yellow drop coming down by the lake. So we kind of rushed our preparation a bit, and I ran over there on Snoop Hogg with the 92222 megas. And Granty ran over there on the Uni with his 91111 megas. We kind of had a plan, but it definitely wasn't a good one. We probably should have talked about this more, but we did have some really good megatheriums. When we entered the arena, I tried to take my 9 megas and kite them around the pillar so we could flank the Broodmother. Theoretically, this was the best strategy because we had the Broodmother surrounded, we were spawn trapping the spiders, and with splitting them up, this should be pretty effective. But we did have Prim saddles, and for some reason the megatheriums were not attacking. This definitely did not go as planned. So yeah, death. Not everything will always go as you plan. But on day 86, when we logged back in, we noticed that the server rolled back to while we were in the boss fight. But it technically kicked us out, and it teleported the couple tames that were still alive out of the fight as well. On the bright side though, we had Snoop Hogg back and we had the Yudi, and we could use them for the Doug fight, and once we get past that, we could retry the Broodmother with our Theries. The Theries have 3 times more armor on their saddles, and the Megatheriums were just kind of standing there AFK during the fight, forgot they were supposed to be participating or something. And Theries don't usually have that type of bug, so I still had some hope for this run. Anyways, at the end of day 86, I headed back to the water cave and I was just chilling, waiting outside for Granty to show up. But then our meeting got intercepted by a Megalodon hit squad, and I didn't really think too much of it. This happens basically every time you put your toe in the water, so I just kind of started biting, but I fell right into their trap because after they got me stuck, their father showed up. He started obliterating me for 400 damage a bite, and his children just had me stun locked, so my only option was to perish. I grabbed our last Bassie, and I headed back over to that death trap. So while Granty violated this Pronto, I am not fighting that Sharknado again. I've learned my lesson, but I did manage to kite them away and get my stuff back. And then we gathered all of our stuff and we headed back over. We decided to just use the dolphins this time because the Bassie would be too slow and have to fight everything. There's way too many miscreants in there for that. So yeah, we made our way through the cave, sticking to the ceiling to not aggro all the creatures that had sunk down to the floor. And we were fast enough to make it to the central cavern without even getting a 1-star rating from the cops. We sat there above the tunnel for a while, talking about how we planned to get out once we were at the dead end and we had secured the artifact.
There's some eels pretty close. Wait. Oh, they're aggroed.
So we did pull some eels out, which is good because if they're in the tunnel and they stun us, we're cooked. The 483,000 megalodons that live here would each get 1 calorie of dolphin. But now that they were aggroed on us, we just kind of circled the pillars trying to lose these guys. Everything seemed clear, so I started heading back to the tunnel.
They're after you. Oh no.
Granty got hit too, but luckily he survived the wall-dwelling eels. They're all by the floor now. I went down. He tried to hide while waiting on me to come back.
Oh no, there's an eel.
You know, I think eels might officially be my new most hated animal. On day 88, I suited up for war, and I slayed some racers for prime meat. Tamed 2 of these dolphins while Granty was crafting some saddles. They almost got murdered by some random shark, but luckily we caught it just in time. I don't know why sharks hate me so much. Like, why can't we just be friends? Anyways, we headed back in, and this time Granty had a dolphin while I used the Bassie to hopefully single out the eels. We stuck to the ceiling to avoid the sharks and the donkeys, but when we had to go through the lower area, everything aggroed. I kind of slowed down for 0.3 seconds to try to bite this eel, and then Granty swam over and just saw this.
Holy. I've been swimming under, bro.
Okay, day 89. Our very first attempt at the water cave with the very friendly eels. So we're just sticking to dolphins from now on, and we managed to get into the cave, but all the eels are just running hog wild now. But we did make it above the tunnel. I've done this on dolphins and even on Diplocallis like so many times because I don't really have any other options when I'm doing some of these more difficult challenges. But this is so much worse because the insane spawns and the increased damage, I was a bit reluctant to just go for it. But once we made it into the tunnel, everything was pretty clear except for the artifact chamber. It was swarmed with everything. What if one of us like kites them down and then the other one like quickly grabs the artifact and comes out above them? That'd be
the most insane play, but
yeah.
That's so risky, bro. How deep's the pit? Like right here? Not that deep.
We were gonna use this pit as like a way to turn around.
Ooh, wait. It doesn't look to be a ton in there. Do you want one of us to just swim down there, maybe take a lap and like kite everything to the bottom corner like, right there?
But then before we could try to do anything,
I got aggroed.
so there were a couple eels on us and we tried to bait them out. We wanted to bring them all the way out, but they just kept stopping at the tunnel entrance. And outside there was a bunch of other problems.
Alright, I'm just gonna like collect them all. On you, but just go for it.
So Granty didn't make it, but he did get all the eels away, so I decided to just full send it. Oh my.
Is there a bunch of stuff in there?
Yes.
Oh, did you die?
So I made it all the way through there, but there's no way I'm grabbing that artifact with all the eels in there. I tried to kite them out several times, but every time they just kept turning around trying to guard the tunnel. So I just decided to go for it, and I only caught one taser to the fin in the process. But once I reached the artifact, there was an exorbitant amount of sharks. So I left my dolphin a couple feet back to distract them.
No, what? You're actually making it out?
I might, but the megalodons are chasing me, but... Oh no, the eels, no! This was super frustrating because I got past everything in the tunnel and I would have actually had it if the eels sitting at the entrance would have gotten kited earlier. But my body was right at the vertical and we still had a chance to get it back. So we decided to grab some focal chili and just swim in on foot, which was a horrible idea, by the way. And yeah, the eels are definitely faster than us.
Huh. Oh, I got 2 tapped.
Oh, well, I reset my cooldown. I grabbed the bag before I died. On day 90, we made some more scuba. That's probably like the 20th time this run. And we headed back to the cave to tame some ichthyes to get my body with the artifact. It took more than 30 minutes to tame these guys though, and my body was already long gone at that point. So it looks like we have to try this whole thing again. I'm so excited. We finished our morning routine of staying high and using the pillars to lose the eels, but Granty got hit by one of the wall dwellers and almost got disintegrated. I was already inside the tunnel now, and I told Granty it was all clear. So he swam down. It was in fact not all clear.
I'm literally swimming in circles with like 5 sharks chasing me, but it's okay.
But I managed to break all of their fin-shaped ankles. And I actually kited the eel into the tunnel before turning around and rushing straight towards the artifact. Everything went perfectly, except some anglers just spawned in to try and ruin my day. Luckily, my dolphin conquered deletion, but I was 1 hit away from death.
How's it going?
I'm locked in.
But I made it past the eel wall, and after that, I was pretty much home free.
So have you gotten the artifact?
Yeah, I just got out of the cave.
You did?
Yep.
Actually?
So now we had 3 out of the 4 artifacts, and all that was left was the artifact of the strong. And this is probably the hardest cave in the game. We knew that we weren't going to be able to just brute force it, so we came up with a plan that involved Granty grinding out some grapples and med brews, while I farmed some pelt to make our good fur armor BPs. This might seem like I'm a bit over prepared, but if you've ever done this cave before, you'll know that this is probably the bare minimum. It was already day 93 though, and the clock was ticking. We had to do this now. When we made it inside, I grappled to the ceiling, hoping that we could skip the first section. Oh. But instead of skipping the first section skipped me. And then whenever I went to try again,
Oh, you're going in.
I almost landed inside of a polar bear's mouth, but eventually we both made it to the waterfall, and that's the first of 3 difficult areas in this cave. So after watching Granty almost get Perlovia'd, we planned our next move while hanging out. Literally. I decided to just speed run across the cave.
Oh, you got the mafia on you, bro.
Oh, dude, I hit you with the grapple. Oh my, yo, dude, there's 4 Perlovias that all just missed you. So as Granty gracefully parachuted, I spanned like 8 grapples per second, and we had now arrived at the crystal wall. This next section is the worst part of the cave, especially when using grapples. The ceiling is way too low, and there's like 85 times more spawns in here than there should be. I can guarantee there's at least 10 Perlovias over there. So first, I aggroed the direwolves, and we were gonna just take this slow, 1 species at a time. Alright, I'm gonna shoot a Yeti.
Oh my god, the whole Congo.
Yeah, you better run.
The Perlovias were blocking most of the stuff back there though, so I whistled my theory over to bait them out. We had a scary moment as Granty got knocked off his Perlovia, but we did manage to clear out the area. And then we had to sit here and wait to cryo our theories because of some wonderful changes that Wildcard made to cryopods. We skipped this entire next section using grapples, and we set up some sleeping bags on this rock. The tunnel didn't look too bad, so we tried to use our theories to clear it.
Oh my god. Hold the line. Oh my god.
Oh no. Oh. Okay, my theory's up. We did not realize that there was that many polar bears there, but somehow the fairies actually handled it pretty well. I think the only reason they're alive is because of the saddles. So one by one, I shot each species and did some exterminating. And Granty ran in on foot to bait the Perlovias.
Oh my god. I got deleted. They're coming, I think.
Once we made it to the water, we set up some sleeping bags, and I grappled to the right side to kite everything into the water. And it worked pretty well until it didn't. How did he hit me? Okay. Oh, no. Oh, my bag. Okay, I have another bag, though, right? I should be okay. But since I already had my armor off, I ran in and I tried to bait the Perlovias from the side. And then my game glitched, making my theory start walking forward without my consent.
I'm not trying to walk.
No, the bear.
Oh, dude, let's go. Yeah, I don't even know what just happened right there, but everything's in the water now. And we finally made it to the artifact. We decided to sit here for a while and wait for a second one to spawn just in case one of us dies on the way out. But after standing here for like 10 minutes, nothing was happening, so we decided to just head out.
Oh, it just spawned.
Actually.
Yeah. I like heard the noise. I was like, wait a minute.
And we left the same way we came in, but then this happened.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff.
Oh, he's targeting me. Oh my god.
I managed to survive the Prolovia onslaught, but Granty chose every single bed except for the correct one, and he never was able to actually spawn back. This was scary though, because if I died, our run was pretty much over. But after clearing that section with my Theory and grappling to safety, I successfully made it back to base with the Artifact of the Strong. Now all that was left were Squidward tentacles and Gigahearts. So Granty started exploring the ocean while I searched the mountains for ARK's most feared predator. It took all day, but on day 97, I finally found one. I showed Granty where he was, and we set up a trap, but no matter what I did, bro would not follow me to those gates. He just got distracted by everything. Man has that TikTok attention span. So yeah, after several times, it was clear that this wasn't gonna work, so we just sat on the cliff and started shooting the dude. But when he got a little too close, we had to take flight. But since Granty had a crossbow with like 300% damage and the Giga was a pretty low level, this shouldn't be too difficult. But what we didn't realize is that ARK has a really weird hitbox, and my RG almost died purely from Granty shooting me instead of the Giga. But with the RG on like 500 health, we stole the Giga's heart. And not metaphorically. And around the end of day 97, Granty finally found a squid, but he cryo-sicked his Theory. Yeah, it didn't end very well for him. I wasn't having too good of a time either though, because I was trying to farm a couple more Udi lungs, and for some reason, you can't make this stuff up, man. The Udi roared, and then my RG landed mid-air and died from fall damage. Like, how do you die from fall damage? You have wings. So yeah, I had to try to run back to base, and then I got knocked out by this Trudon. Dude took like 4 harpoons to the face. So yeah, after he had me knocked out, he just kind of ran circles around me and hit me for 0 damage at a time. I'm basically being held hostage right now. Yeah, nothing is going right for us right now, and we were starting to get really limited on time, but I decided it was probably a good idea to start leveling up the Theories. So I started breeding some babies, and you know, I started slashing. I managed to get all of them to 21,000 health and somewhere around 600 to 700 melee each. But by the time we got done with that, it was already the end of day 99. We were about to run out of time. So we both decided that it was in our best interest to just spawn in the last Gigaheart that we needed to fight Doug. And shortly after that, a yellow drop came down right inside of our base. So we frantically started rounding up all the Theories. We grabbed Snoop Hogg and the Udi, of course. We made sure to put all of them on disable resource harvesting, and as the portal was coming down, I suggested to Granty that he should probably whistle all, that way I can kite Doug.
Oh wait, not right now.
Oh no,
I'm
whistle
stupid,
stop,
I'm
whistle
stupid,
stop,
I'm
whistle
stupid, I'm
stop.
stupid. Oh my goodness. There's a berry in here.
What? Oh no.
That's my...
So yeah, there was like a bunch of berries in here, and Karen was just chilling as well. Yeah, fighting Alpha Doug with a bunch of random tames is definitely not optimal, but we decided to move forward with the plan. So as Doug landed, I tried to get his attention.
Oh, that is not what's supposed to
Oh
happen.
wait, it hit me though, I
It
think.
hit a lot of them, bro. But the berry just died in one hit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the most scuffed run I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh, I got killed by a Dimorph.
But I mean, you never know. Maybe Karen will clutch up.
We could have been able to beat the fight in series.
Base.
It's alive.
What?
I knew that was gonna happen.
So that is the story of how 2 ARK veterans just got outlived by a male Dillo named Karen. But it wasn't over just yet, and we geared up for one final battle. It was time to go to war against ourselves.
My rocket didn't even make it. Did anything even die?
No. We can't even blow up our own base correctly, bro. All the way. None of this ever happened. I thoroughly apologize for that run, guys, but I mean, I know you guys like to see me suffer, and there was definitely a lot of that. Make sure to sub to Granty if there's some reason you aren't already. Maybe he'll eventually beat the game. And don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends using the QR code on screen or the link in the description. If you want to see me try to catch every single pal in Pal World while also being a complete noob, click right here.